In my game against Kakagildiv on the same disk, you could see that the passed pawn can be used as a pretty serious weapon, creating tactical chances. The passed pawn can also be strong in itself, not as the way to distract opponent's pieces from the other part of the board, but as a main feature of the position. In fact, it is very often the case in the endgame, because the fact that pawn can actually queen is horribly important for the whole game of chess, and sometimes in some positions just everything basically rotates around one passed pawn, whether it will queen or not. And how pawns can queen even in the positions where you would think nothing should actually enable this. I would like to turn your attention to my game against Stevic, which was played in Bosnia-Herzegovina in 2003. And if you take a good look at this position, basically you will see that the material is equal, and in the long run black should not have any problems. I mean, endgame, he has a bishop against a knight, his rook is sufficiently active, and it seems that in fact white's rook is bound to the pawn, and so on. But if you take a closer look at the position, then you will see that for a while black's pieces are badly discoordinated. The king is on g8, bishop on d3, and rook on f2. And rook, in fact, has difficulties in getting into the battle if the battle will happen on some open files. That is, on f2 it is a bit stupidly looking into the knight on f3 and cannot do so much otherwise, and the bishop is a bit loose. And if we try to make the use of it, we could start with, let's say, rook a8 check, and then let's say after king f7 we see that the king and the bishop are on the normal forking distance, so knight e5 could be tried, but d takes e5, and I gain nothing, but it gives us the idea. If this pawn on d6 was not there, then this could work. So immediately we should get an idea. What if white tries c5? The move also being helpful for other reasons. It attacks the pawn on f4 and prevents bishop e4. And bishop f1 is actually never a threat because of king g1 attacking two pieces. So c5 looks good somehow, d takes c5, check, and we already know king f7, knight e5. But here we see that, or in fact we see it before we play c5, that black has king g7. But now we suddenly realize that white's pawn has become very dangerous. In fact, as we saw, the rook on f2 could be badly placed for any such fight, because the d pawn could be only controlled from d2, and in fact exactly this square black rook doesn't have. So we just try to queen the pawn. Play d6, bishop e4, and play d7. And now we think everything is great until we actually realize that black will just take on f3, and after d8 rook takes g2, king h1, very simply get the queen back. And in fact, in the ensuing ending, white will have to fight hard to get a draw, which somewhat doesn't make us very happy. We continue to look at this position, and we see that we actually failed because of the weakness of the second rank, and not because we didn't have enough resources to queen the pawn. And in fact, if it were not for the second rank, then even black to move now with, let's say, bishop takes a8, d7. In fact, if it were not for black's counterplay along this diagonal, his pieces would not be able to stop white's pawn, because as we saw, the square d2 is controlled. So basically the answer is pretty clear. After bishop e4, just to kill the counterplay, with king g1, and then after bishop takes a8, if the rook would go somewhere, then d7 just queens. Bishop a8, and now not king f2, after which black has time to stop the pawn, but just d7, and that's it, the pawn queens. And in fact, after, let's say, bishop takes f3, it is not d8 that I play, of course, because of rook g2 and so on. After bishop f3, it is just king f2, and the black pieces, as before, are helpless to stop this pawn from queening, and thus after d7, black resigned. So if we return a bit to the starting position, we see that basically in the position where white didn't even have a passed pawn, there were still possibilities of using this motif and in fact queening the pawn. And this was mainly because of the poor coordination of opponent's pieces. And this is something we have to learn to feel and to see. The opponent's pieces are badly coordinated, we might have some tactical chances. So, and last we proceed with our examples, and maybe the next ones will be of a different kind, more complicated than this one.